Ubisoft needs a win. 2024 was not a good year for them financially. It was
if you look at their chart, the red line is going down.
That the many of their less than popular design practices, when all those chickens finally came home to roost, it was the year that everyone finally decided to collectively turn on the
Well, you just look at this game.
Came home to roost. It was the
Look
year.
at this. What year did this come out? It might surprise you, but this actually came out in 2010.
That everyone finally decided to collectively turn on the company, and honestly, justifiably so.
Oh wait, it was
Fans
6
have
months
been
ago.
complaining about the state of Ubisoft's formula for years.
Will you continue down that river? Or choose another path?
But for whatever reason, we're now at the point where those complaints have finally manifested into mainstream disinterest. Ubisoft games just aren't selling like they used to, which is a big problem for an outfit as big as Ubisoft is. They need to sell big numbers to keep
I'm probably going to buy Ubisoft. I've been saving up $3, and so probably by next year I'll be able to afford it.
International chain of developers working at max capacity, and those sales did not happen in 2024. It's one financial disappointment after another. Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora, Skull and Bones, Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, Star Wars Outlaws, they all underperformed according to Ubisoft. And it's not necessarily those are bad games. The Avatar game, surprisingly good. Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown as well. I mean, it was kind of unfair to expect what they expected there, but it's a great game. The less said about Skull and Bones and Star Wars Outlaws, the better right now.
These are the bad ones, because the other two games were like much smaller in scope and they cost less money. So it's like Prince of Persia probably cost like, less than, I'd say, $20-30 million to make, realistically, given the scope of it. So that doesn't really matter a whole lot. But whenever you put $100 million into something and you lose on that, that matters a lot more. Avatar was amazing. I would only want to play Avatar if I could play as the humans and just go shoot all of the Avatar people. I want to be the bad guy. Yeah.
The situation has been so bad, they're actually considering a buyout or selling the entire studio to whoever.
They did, and this is the only time in the last year that their stock went up.
Is willing to pay. A recent deal with Tencent fell through because the founders wanted to keep control of the company. And
smart, bro. Tencent, I'm telling you guys, like these guys over in China, they know what they're doing. They say, why would I? So you want us to buy your ship and not change the captain? But the captain's the one who keeps tipping the ship over. Why does this happen?
When you're owned by somebody, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
So honestly, yeah, you can say there were some big problems with some of the games. You exclude Skull and Bones, and all the games I mentioned are decent games. You exclude Star Wars Outlaws, and, well, they're actually very good games. Some of the best the studio's put out in years. They're finally starting to evolve their formula.
The problem doesn't matter because this game was massively overpriced. So it's like you can win, like taking a game to market, you have like multiple factors, right? It's like timing, the game quality, the price of the game, the distribution of the game. All of these things matter. And the fact is that this game was sold at such a high price range with early access that it alienated a large audience of people that I think if for $20 or $30 could have truly appreciated it as a faithful recreation of Prince of Persia in some cases, and if nothing else, just a relatively pretty good Metroidvania game. But they decided not to do that.
But it's kind of too little too late. So with all that said, there's a pretty big question mark on top of the new game about the oath that murderers take. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on Game Ranks we're going to talk about how much is riding on Assassin's Creed Shadows. A lot. I mean, this game needs to be a success.
If this game doesn't sell 5 million copies, the studio's done. I think even if the game doesn't sell 10 million copies in its lifespan, it's almost like the studio's done. I think that they're too it will not. I do not think that it will. I think it's 4 to 6 million is my projection with the new game.
Assassin's Creed is their premier franchise, and while Valhalla may have been responsible for a lot of fans giving up on Ubisoft in the first place, it was without a doubt a massive hit. It sold over 20 million copies and earned over $1 billion. That's a B in revenue.
That's a lot.
That game's success has been a double-edged sword. It made a lot of money, but I mean, I guess, lack of a better way of putting it, it also just bludgeons you with sort of endless content. I'm using the word very deliberately here to convey what people think of the word content. I can see why, for a lot of people, enough was enough. It was a game where people were finally getting fed up with the Ubisoft.
People are just tired of clicking on a collectible and it says 1 of 465. That's really what it is. I think people are tired of that. This is it's OCD bait for mental illness players.
Ubisoft formula, like, full blown. The funny thing, I don't think Valhalla is bad at all. I think it's
never
a good
played
game.
it. I watched Shroud
really
play it,
long.
that's it.
It's really bloated, and it's ultimately pretty formulaic. It wears out its welcome, I guess is the way to put it. To really enjoy Valhalla, you have to play it until you're sick of it, and then put it down for like a week, and then play it until you're sick of it, and then put it down for like a week.
Jesus.
And you're going to do that at least twice.
The fuck?
You're going to put it down for a week at least twice while playing it to really enjoy the game,
Damn.
which it's not good.
That's weird.
The game was an endurance test. It did not do enough to advance Assassin's Creed as a series. Shadows, Assassin's Creed Shadows, the new one, is supposed to be that evolution. The game where Ubisoft finally innovates their stale gameplay systems and updates all the tired cliches. I don't know if it's actually going to or not, but from all the previews going around...
I mean, like, this is Assassin's Creed, and part of the Assassin's Creed game is a house building simulator where you can pick the color of dog that you want in your house. This is very problematic. Huh?
And all the pre-release information, it does seem like Ubisoft really wants us to think of this game as a new beginning for the series. It's not just that Assassin's Creed Shadows desperately wants us back either. It needs us back. The future of the entire company is
you need to have a cool main character. And Yasuke, there's no real personality behind the character that's... Like, if you look at Ezio, like the old Assassin's Creed character, if you ask every 15-year-old guy, does this dude look cool? Everybody's gonna be like, yeah, he's so cool, right? But, and it's like, because there's a degree of kind of, what's the word for it? Like, there's gravitas to it. And just like his expression on his face, the way he's dressed, everything about it, it indicates a certain type of personality and a vibe to it, right? And with Yasuke, I feel like they haven't really done that hardly at all. And I think the reason why is that I think if they give the character too much of a personality, it could seem like it's antithetical to him being a Japanese person. And if they don't give him enough, then it's like a boring character. So they're in like this really weird spot. Yusuke no aura. Yeah, he just doesn't have aura. Exactly. Like there are characters like, you know, Senator Armstrong, fucking like Heisme in Metaphor, like Luis in Metaphor, right? Like that's aura. Like this is an aura. This is like whatever the opposite of aura is. Yoshimitsu, yeah. Yeah, Henry, and fucking, what's his name? The guy with him. Hans. Yeah, Clive has aura. Duke Nukem has aura. Yeah.
On this game, it has to make a splash or else. And there's a certain desperation around the release of this game that you usually do not see from Ubisoft. They pushed it back to March 20th in order to release the game with no competition. They're offering DLC with pre-orders. They're finally releasing day one on Steam again. The old
that's a roach play. They're roaching. You can tell right there. The fact that they have their own system and they're still going back to Steam. Yep.
Ubisoft would never do. They knew they had your money where they were 100% confident in their success, so they released their games whenever they wanted, wherever they wanted. Expensive DLC passes be damned. In this new punished Ubisoft era, they're actually doing things people like, and while it's clearly all from a place of desperation, I mean, it's nice to see somebody learning the lesson. There's 100 different things I could point to right now of people who just refuse to learn the lesson. Just do what people want you to do, and it'll work. So
just do the thing and make the game good. That's the crazy thing with Marvel Rivals. They just did the thing and they made the game good. Stop putting things like, I think that also like a lot of players are becoming fatigued with live service retention mechanisms. Things like daily quests, things like login counters, stuff like that. I think that that's beginning to fatigue a lot of players. Marvel Rivals devs got fired. Yeah, but like, I mean, I'm going to be honest. I really feel bad for them, and I think that sucks on a personal level. But like, I don't give a fuck how they run their company. That's not my problem. I just play the game. Like, I mean, Samsung wants to use child laborers to make a new fucking phone. That sounds great. How much is it? Oh, it's only $1,000? Great. Wow. Thank God for cobalt miners. I mean, that's not my problem.
I mean,
let's be real.
To some extent, we do have to look at this as an aberrant situation.
Nobody cares.
Desperation or no, I don't really care why. They're doing what we want them to do, at least. So let's at least hear them out.
At least you're honest. Yeah, I'm. Everybody feels the way that I do, but some people like to pretend that they don't in order to, you know, make themselves sound good. But I think that their actions are what matter, not words.
They're trying to do is show they're pretty serious about PC support. On top of just straight up releasing the game on Steam day one, they recently put out a trailer specifically to show off all the PC support features, including the stuff you'd expect, like access to all the AI upscaling tools and ray tracing features. But they also mentioned stuff like built-in benchmarking tools and a wide range of support for low and medium-end systems.
Game looks good.
Meaning optimization, perhaps.
Low? I mean, does this really look that much different? I mean, I guess a little bit.
I don't know. We'll see.
Like, am I crazy for thinking that... Like, maybe this is going to be a really hot take, but I think this is the beginning of the exponential growth curve of graphic quality leveling off. I think we've hit the 80-20 rule right here. Probably 90-10. They could make games that look like this for the next 10 years, and as long as they play well, people aren't going to complain. Graphics have hit a threshold to where they are basically good enough.
Perhaps. I don't know. We'll see. But another highly requested feature
Fabric details,
in Shadows is an immersive mode where you can set it so that characters actually speak their native language. It's just an option. Default still
she looks
English
way
or
hotter
whatever,
in that cinematic.
Local languages, but it's a welcome feature. I'll probably play it in English, if I'm completely honest.
Sam
At least
Boogie's about to bow down.
Assuming there's a second time, I'll probably go through with immersive mode. But for AC fans, Shadows sounds on paper like the game we've all been waiting for. A game set in Japan with more complex stealth systems and more visceral combat. It promises an immersive open world with things like changing seasons.
I just can't think of a single action combat game that's come out in the last 2 years that's as bad as this. Like, basically every single action combat game that comes out is better than this. I mean, I would say that... I mean, maybe this is better a little bit than Veilguard.
Going to focus on actual investigation, where you don't just find your target simply by following a series of linear quests, but actually searching the world and discovering things naturally. On paper, sounds like the dream Assassin's Creed game, right? But what matters is the implementation.
Yeah,
we've seen Ghost of Tsushima already.
This is what I need to play.
In a lot of ways, I am describing Ghost of Tsushima. On that same hand, it's also pretty hard not to be cynical about a new game from Ubisoft, which is one of the most cynical game developers out there. But from everything I have seen, this new game does look like a genuine step up for the series. Perhaps even a big one, but whether it's big enough...
I don't see how you can say that after watching the combat in the game. I don't. I've looked at the combat in the game, and as somebody who spends a lot of time evaluating that, and that is my prime focus of gameplay, I don't agree with that conclusion. The combat before was worse. That doesn't really matter to me. Like, what matters is, like, what it's competing against in the contemporary market.
Is yet to be seen. A lot of what they've shown so far is pretty exciting. Almost all the changes to stealth sound like huge improvements. Finally being able to hide in darkness, noise being a concern with things like creaky floors and being able to crawl and go prone.
I will admit, though, that is clean. Like, that's really good.
It's all very intriguing, and these are long requested changes. You can put out lights like in Splinter Cell,
yeah.
or even just stuff that existed on PlayStation and Nintendo 64. I don't know why, for whatever reason, you can't put lights out. I don't understand that. I like that you're going to be able to do it here, though. There's servant NPCs. They'll run and call guards if they see you. It all sounds a lot more complex. And even, like I kind of mentioned, old school. Like, there's stuff here that reminds me of, like, PlayStation 1 and 64 to PlayStation 2 and GameCube era stuff. I like that. Combat looks more intense here, too. They're clearly taking inspiration from, and I mentioned this already, the more fast and brutal fights of Ghost of Tsushima.
Can we go back and watch that again?
PlayStation 1 and 64 to PlayStation 2 and GameCube era stuff. I like that. Combat looks more intense here, too.
I've seen Unreal 5 tech demos that are more responsive and better than this. This is a joke. Every single gacha game is better than this.
Too. They're clearly taking inspiration from, and I mentioned this already, the more fast and brutal fights of Ghost of Tsushima. I do kind of think they realized they were out Assassin's Creeded by that game. But they aren't just trying to, copy that. They're also giving us a much wider array of weapons to play with, which potentially I think makes that fast and brutal combat a lot cooler sounding. The thing a lot of people still aren't entirely sold on are the split protagonists. There's the Shinobi and Yasuke, the samurai. Naoe basically plays like your old school AC protagonist where you're sneaking around rooftops, sneakily stabbing people. Well, Yasuke is a big bruiser who sucks at stealth, but excels at combat. It's an interesting concept, and from all the previews, I actually respect they're trying to make each character actually play differently rather than just be reskins.
That's smart, yeah, true.
You will have to spill it first.
But also, Yasuke, the sort of big bruiser style, it makes the game sound less interesting mechanically. I don't know that that's the truth, of course, but Naoe gets access to all the cool ninja tools, like a grappling hook. She can run on walls, hide in tight spaces, all these interesting tricks. Well, Yasuke allegedly can just kill stuff better. He's the melee.
Yeah, that's what I want to play. Yep. That's right. I don't give a fuck about how many flips she can do. If I want to see that, I go watch the Olympics.
Guy. It's like Ubisoft is afraid to make a game where you just play as a ninja in Assassin's Creed. They have to have a warrior in there somewhere for people who want to run around killing everything without having.
So this guy actually brings up a really great point, and I think that this point of view is something that Ubisoft needs to take consideration into, especially for the fact that, like, Assassin's Creed, I don't like stealth games. Straight up, I don't find them fun. So, in a way, Assassin's Creed as a game, if it appeals to me, it's losing its grasp on its original identity. Does that make sense? Because, like, by appealing to a person that is not interested in these kinds of games, then it would be obvious that, you know, like, they're trying to, like, I think they did this with Valhalla, right? And I noticed this a lot. Because, like, I watched Shroud play it, and Shroud wasn't sneaking around that much, right? He was just killing people. And I was like, well, this isn't really... Is this really Assassin's Creed? Like, what is this? And so now they've created an audience of people that want to play, because like Valhalla was the last big one, right? And so they want to capitalize off of that audience that they've brought in. But I think also at the same time, it's going to be hard for them to reconcile their original audience and make it basically also an Assassin's Creed game with assassinations. You see kind of what my point is, right? Where you're trying to have your cake and eat it too with like both different audiences. You want the traditional action combat audience, but you also want the audience of people that like the more assassin gameplay. And so I think that as a long-term fan of Assassin's Creed, I could feel very frustrated about this if I was one. I'm not.
to worry about the boring stealth crap, which I mean, to at least some extent, I get. I do kind of understand the thought process here. I don't hate the idea of getting the options. I just worry about one of those options making it so that the development of both of those options was effort diverted that could have been put into one thing that would have been better. I guess if
that's actually a great point that he's bringing up, is that he's absolutely right that by adding in 2 protagonists and by doing that, you're spending development time on something that you could have created the ninja experience and made it even better. That's a great point.
Nawe is fantastic. It doesn't really matter to me. That's who I will play as. And to be frank, Yasuke does at least seem to have some interesting skills. He can smash through walls, for instance. He can shoulder check enemies off cliffs. Got a more traditional combat system with a parry and block button. He's got access to a traditional samurai sword, along with some bigger weapons like the Naginata and the Kanabo, the giant cudgel that can smash through armor.
The mace.
Yasuke might sound a little bit like easy mode even, but they're attempting to balance him out by making it so he absolutely sucks at stealth. Climbing is slow and awkward, and don't even think about trying to use tight ropes because they're just going to snap with the weight. His animations play up the fact that he is not built for stealth, which is both kind of interesting and potentially pretty limiting. His stealth basically begins and ends with the bow, which is a silent kill weapon that he has access to that Nawe doesn't. She can be worse in combat, but she actually sounds more unique and interesting as a character to play as, at least from the previews. Instead of standard parry, she has deflect, where she repositions after well-timed block, moving around to attack the enemy from behind. But that leaves her vulnerable.
To be fair, you did just see the frame fuck up there. That was not very good, but
stabbed in the back. It sounds like the guys you fight are going to be more aggressive in general, too. They're not afraid to gang up on you, and they can probably easily overwhelm the much squishier but stealthier Nawe. Shadows might be attempting to modernize the formula in a lot of ways, but it's also bringing back a few old gameplay staples of the series. For one thing, you can no longer climb absolutely everything. Certain mountains and smooth surfaces can't be climbed. You need to actual handhold to get anywhere in AC Shadows. And honestly, that should allow for more interesting and complex world design.
Okay.
Just because it works in Breath of the Wild doesn't mean it works everywhere. Sometimes the limitation is good. And I think that in terms of...
Sekiro had that in a lot of cases and it worked fine. I feel like there's not really a right or wrong way to do it. But if you do it the right way, doing it the right way is understanding what you're doing and doing it well.
Assassin's Creed, that limitation it's necessary.
It's a design
so you can't
issue.
just go wherever you want anymore. That allows the designers to come up with more carefully curated locations that are more rewarding to explore. Changing seasons could also affect the level design, like winter freezes that can be walked on.
Water.
I've seen some previews that are skeptical about the whole weather system, saying it doesn't seem to change much in terms of gameplay, which may be true, but it seems like these seasons are more like measurements of time rather than strictly a gameplay thing. See, the seasons in the game tie into this whole scout mechanic, where you can recruit scouts to do various things for you. They can be used to help narrow down objectives in the game.
See, this is the kind of stuff that I feel like in a lot of these games, like you're just adding in a bunch of these features and functions that the game has. Like, so you have like Assassin's Creed and you have this narrow game, like in some cases, and I think that they try to broaden the game, and at a certain point, the game loses its identity and it's just another like piece of slop. Like, why do you need scouts? Like, why does this system exist? Like, and you ask yourself the question, the important thing is that why is the design made in a way that scouts feel like they're necessary? And I think that like it was really illuminating for me to go back and play games like Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance or like Ninja Gaiden Black. These are just very narrow, great games. Armored Core 6, another great example. You don't need to do everything. Not every game needs to have a building simulator. Not every game needs to have a collection system. Not every game needs to have a costume functionality. And so you see games that are just becoming larger and larger in scope because they want to include more types of audiences. But the fact is that I think in a lot of these cases, does this feature really improve the quality of the game? Does it really make the game better? And I think in a lot of cases nowadays with AAA games, the answer to that is really no. And sometimes less is more. And I think the best example of that is Sekiro or Armored Core 6. One of those two games. These are narrow, great, amazing experiences that don't have a million other functionalities that have nothing to do with the core gameplay experience. And I think also that broadening of scope is what's led to the price and the ballooning of the cost to make video games. Because now video games are so expensive to make. Well, yeah, I wonder if they'd be any cheaper if you stopped creating all of these unnecessary systems that the player doesn't really want to, like that don't really add anything, any real substance or texture to the game. They're just there for the sake of being there. You can look at Monster Hunter as a perfect example of a game incorporating extra systems that actually did add to the core gameplay loop. Yeah, and there are some examples of it working well. Yeah, replaces design with content. I really like that point of view. That's a great way of saying it. It replaces genuine game design with, quote, content. Yes, absolutely.
Doesn't tell you their exact locations.
Slop
They're needed,
content?
though,
Yeah.
to smuggle supply caches from well-guarded locations. Once you use a scout to smuggle stuff, that can't be used again until the season passes, which is
What is this shit? What the shit?
when all the scouts complete their jobs. How the open world exploration works. Sounds like they took exploration mode from the RPG
Odyssey?
trilogy and expanded on that. Getting around isn't about following simple waypoints. You're given descriptions of where to go, or you might need to find clues to direct you to the proper area to continue. It sounds like you'll almost always have access to all the clues you need to get the targets, or just uncover a point of interest. But you can also send scouts in the world map to find things for you. The more scouts spent, the larger radius of the area searched. Resources the scouts can collect can be used back at the hideout, which is a customizable location. You can build structures that
What the fuck? Who asked for this? The fuck is this?
boost your characters or unlock new features.
It's not
Sort
have
of
to
like
do it.
the Ravensthorpe from Valhalla, only you can control where the buildings go, and you can design and decorate the place as much as you want. Another big change is that they're finally removing the bird drone from the RPG trilogy. It was an impressive graphical flex in Origins, but
Somebody's got you've got maybe a 5-head long-term 4-dimensional chess opinion here. You're missing the big thing. They have made the last few Assassin's Creed games this bloated intentionally to extend how long people subscribe to Ubisoft Plus for. I hate the fact that you're probably right. I hate that, like, it's actually just some bullshit like that. That's so fucking annoying to me. Great point. Yeah, it was. That was a great point.
it was so powerful there was never any reason not to use it, and actually going around marking everyone was slow and tedious. It made the first part of sneaking into any given location a chore. You had to hunt down and mark everything. Shadows removes the system and replaces it with Observe, which is the same thing, only a little weaker. Serves the same function, marks points of interest, and flags enemies, but you're stuck on the ground to do it. And specifically, Yasuke's version of it is more limited. He can only mark a few guys, while Naoe gets extra skills, like being able to mark enemies through walls. The biggest concern with Shadows is if all these changes are actually enough. Some of the previews I've seen make it sound...
This is not... None of this is about the game. Like, this is the kind of stuff, like, I feel like this is such a great metaphor for what I think happens with, like, a lot of companies, and probably what happens. It's like, it's basically you have, like, it's like the opposite of entropy, right? Where, like, you just have, like, this snowball effect where, like, more begets more begets more begets more.
like this plays mostly the same as the old
It's not
entries.
content,
And,
it's chores.
maybe that
Yeah,
the
it is.
stealth mechanics don't really shake things up enough. I've read other previews that are a lot more glowing and appreciative of what's going on in
This game
Shadows.
looks great for
Right now,
2009. When's
it's
it
really
releasing?
hard to say whether Ubisoft
2025.
actually turned things around here or not. A lot of the features do look suspiciously similar to previous games.
Yeah.
Loot appears to be random again. The investigation system seems very similar to Hunting the Order from Valhalla. And there's still tons of resources you have to collect to up.
Loot being random is a retention mechanic. That's it. That's what it is. I mean, I don't have really a huge problem with it, but it is, again, another retention mechanic. It's just, okay, well, now you have to farm more. Randomized loot in a single-player game. I don't think it's really always bad, but it's just... Like it's like there's just a lot, right? Just a lot of these little things, like little.
There's experience levels
you know?
and assassinations that can
I don't
fail,
know.
like in recent RPG games. And if you're not high enough level, it looks like you only do partial damage
I saw you coming.
when attempting to use stealth kills. A lot of what we're getting here looks very similar to what we've seen in other Assassin's Creed games in terms of controls and the basic gameplay loop. With more options for stealth, more complex levels, and improved combat, it has the potential to be the best Assassin's Creed game yet. Like hunting.
It has potential to be better. So you think it has potential to be better than Black Flag or Odyssey? I don't know about that. I mean, like I guess like there's a lot of things that have potential, right? But I mean, we're gonna have to wait and see what happens. Potential's, I mean, potential. That word's doing a lot of heavy lifting. Let's say that.
The Order from Valhalla doesn't necessarily have to be bad. Like certain contexts could make that mechanic good, or at least better than in Valhalla. It's not like it was terrible in Valhalla or anything, but I think the context really does have a lot of effect. And I'm not sure I'm sold on the split protagonist entirely. This story kind of looks, I mean, from what we've currently seen, a bit bland and uninteresting. There is
It will be. Yeah, it will be.
potential. I'm not going to lie. I can see that in terms of narrative. It's just I'm not sure we've seen it. I'm not looking forward to the damn Animus hub. We're already stuck with the crappy Ubisoft launcher on PC. I don't understand why we need another piece of bloatware to get between us and playing the game. I know.
Yeah, I'm very much the mindset that nowadays, if a game requires me to download a separate launcher for it and like make another account, like unless it's a game I really want to play, I'll just play another game. It's just it's annoying, right? It is. It's just annoying. Like it's not even about like anything else or anything complex. Like I just don't want to deal with it. I lose interest immediately. Yeah, it's just obnoxious. It's friction at stage one. Yeah, exactly.
Ubisoft wants to upsell this concept, but I don't care. It sounds stupid and pointless no matter how they try to spin it. Anyone who's gotten the opportunity to experience the joy of trying to play a Call of Duty game knows how absolutely awful these kinds of unified launchers can be. They just make trying to actually play a game more annoying. Like trying to quarantine off the modern day storyline bits into this thing makes the modern day story stuff even more inconsequential. Yeah. This is one idea that really should have been jettisoned with their plans for whatever Assassin's Creed Infinite was originally going to be.
I don't know.
Maybe by some miracle the Animus hub won't be absolutely terrible and it'll just be unnecessary. But with so much riding on this one game's success, trying to force something that nobody wants into the package seems a little counterproductive. But that's Ubisoft for you. It seems like they're incapable of just doing it right. Even if all the signs point to the game being good, they got to throw in some bullshit. It's disappointing because otherwise everything else about Shadows looks and sounds pretty promising. A longtime fan of the series.
It looks okay. Yeah, I mean, like the graphics for the game look decent in some cases. Like I think this game is going to be like Avowed. I think that's going to be like the quality level of the game.
Who both likes the game and is well aware of the flaws, the many varied flaws. It's possible Shadows could be the revitalization.
It'll have better
of
graphics,
the series that it needs. The developers behind Assassin's Creed Shadows really want to bring fans back. And at least looking at the previews, all the information they've released so far, looks like they're doing the right things. But also, you can't really say that for sure until you played the game. We'll see if this is the game mainstream audiences really want, or if the page is really finally starting to turn on open world games. It's a volatile market.
No, it's not turning on open world games. Absolutely not. See, this is like this is the same mindset that people had before Marvel Rivals came out. Hero shooters are dead. No, creativity in hero shooters is dead. Quality in hero shooters is dead. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is a massive open world game, and it's already sold 2 million copies. It's bullshit.
And games that traditionally were surefire hits are underperforming right now. I mean, it's not even just games. Like large entertainment properties that were once guaranteed hits regardless of quality across the board, whether it's Marvel movies or Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny or the second Joker.
Because these movies are garbage. That's the reason why they're not popular. It's because they suck. And they're basically rehashes that the studio has only greenlit because it's behind an IP that they think they can sell merchandise for that'll offset the bad sales of the movie. That's the reason. The second Joker is horrid. Oh, like I've not heard a single good thing about Joker 2. I didn't even watch it.
Movie audiences are not quite automatically sold on big. Like, unless you're Call of Duty, there's no certainty of success. And
even if you're Call of Duty, there's not certainty of success. I think that the new Call of Duty, I think Black Ops, I actually think that it was really well received. It seemed like it feels like a lot of people like, it's not. I mean, it's not Modern Warfare 2, right? But it's pretty good.
What I just said should make Call of Duty fairly nervous. Assassin's Creed Shadows could turn out to be a good game, even a great one, but it still might not be enough to turn Ubisoft's fortunes around. For me, all I really care about is good games. The business aspect of this is a curiosity, and something interesting to follow and talk about. But for me, ultimately, I would rather see a struggling Ubisoft make a great game over a dominant Ubisoft making a bunch of mediocre slop.
That's what I think too. I think that we really have to turn our hopes towards like a handful of AAA studios and a larger handful of dedicated and singular and focused AA studios. And I think also towards indie developers in order for them to really innovate in gaming right now. Why would you play this when Ghost of Tsushima's out? Well, I mean, like, that's a great question.
We don't know exactly what Shadows is going to be, whether that is a great game or, unfortunately, the possibility of it being mediocre slop is there.
Yeah.
But they definitely want the game to be a success.
It's not Assassin's Creed.
We'll see if they pull it off. Either way, you can just use Ubisoft Plus. It's on there day one, and that's a whole lot cheaper than actually buying the game. So if you're curious, just do that. That's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications, and as always, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter and book me on Cameo at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on Game Ranks.
I feel like that was a really fair video. I do in some cases, but I think that also, like, this is clearly from the perspective of someone who really wants this game to succeed. I am very much like, I'm the kind of guy that I want to play a very good game, but the combat and the gameplay that I've seen from this, I think is below average. And I think that if you have something like this happen and people see this combat, it's going to be like, I can only imagine, it's going to be like Star Wars Outlaw, like whenever it came out, and then everybody was posting videos of like, oh, where did she go? Where did she go? And then she hits him in the head. She punches him in his metal helmet, and he's dead. Okay, sure. And then, where did she go? Where did she go? Oh, you know, that's it. It's crazy. It looks bad even by modern Assassin's Creed standards. Well, I don't know about that. I would say that the graphics quality and everything of the game looks pretty decent. That's my opinion. I think this is a high quality, great graphical setting, and I think this definitely passes the test. If graphics never improved past this, I would think that we're okay. So that's the way I see it. And it's decent. Yeah, it looks okay. It's not that bad. Black Flag combat was basic as fuck. This looks 100 times better. Okay, well, I guess we're going to have to wait and see. And also, the game is not competing against Black Flag. It's competing against Sekiro. It's competing against Ghosts of Tsushima, Ghosts of Yotai. It's competing against, like whatever the new, like, I don't know, Phantom Blade Zero. Yeah, it's competing against that. Like, it's not competing against a 10-year-old game. Wukong. Yeah, Black Myth Wukong, Neo. Yeah, so like Rise of the Ronin, another one. And so you can't say this is better than a 10-year-old game when you're trying to compete against new games. Like, that's it. Whoever said that solution was fuck, Black Flag's combat's 100 times more satisfying. And then also, that's another big component, is that having satisfying combat is better than having in-depth combat. Like, there are a lot of games that have, like, very, very base level of combat, but they're still very fun to play. I don't want current video game graphics to get much better. It's going to be as good as it is for many years. I want to focus on more content and bigger game environments, more story and features. I think the problem that they're going to start running into, and what I want to see the focus be put on, is a lower price point. Or at least a consistent price point. Because I think a huge problem right now in games is that they're just getting too expensive. And these games are becoming more and more expensive. And the scope of the games is growing more and more. And the process of that, I think that the outcome of that is that the games have ended up just being too big to succeed. That's it. It's just they're too expensive for people to play, especially when there's so many negative people about the game. Like, I think Avowed is a great example of this. It's actually going... Oh my God. It's peaked. There's no way. There's no way tomorrow it's... Oh, let me link you guys the video, by the way. I forgot to do that. Yeah, that's nuts.